Good afternoon. Welcome to the second episode, the screening of second episode of the history of Russian design. Thank you for joining us here. And today is Old Style Russian New Year, so Happy New Year again. And today we have a very special guest for our program. It's Olga Druzhinina. She is the head of the research department of Moscow Design Museum, who produced this film. And she will give us the introduction of this series that is devoted to VNIIT, All State Institute for Technical Aesthetics. And Olga is a specialist on the subject. And I welcome Olga very much to our program and give the floor to her.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your interest in our design history and in the work of our museum. And I'm really happy to be today with you. And I would like to start with my thought that this episode is extremely important for understanding the essence of the Soviet design. And I think that this period we are going to talking about today is very, very important, and we can call it like a golden age of the Soviet design. And I would like to start with giving you a little information about the political, social, economic situation in the country. And in the late 50s, some very important events in the USSR took place, and first of all, of course, it was the 20th Congress of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union in 1956. And at the Congress, Nikita Khrushchev denounced Stalin's cult of personality and what was to become known as the Khrushchev thaw began. And the Soviet Union's borders opened up a little, and the first international events took place. For example, in 1957, Moscow hosted the 6th World Festival of Youth and Students, and of course it gave a great opportunity for residents of the capital to encounter art and culture from other countries. And in 1959, American National Exhibition in Moscow in Sokolniki Park was held. And the Soviets, for many of them, it was the first time, saw works by the American designers Charles Andreas Eames and Richard Buckminster Fuller, George Nelson. They saw the latest in American-made automobiles, modern kitchens, home appliances, computer. And of course, the Soviet Union decided to catch up with the capitalists in the field of design. And not to mention that by that time, the Soviet people were extremely tired of the constant shortages. So to address these problems, in the beginning of 60s, design in the USSR became the part of the state policy. And as a result of that, in 1962, the All-Union Scientific Research Institute of Technical Aesthetics was created with famous Yuri Solovyov in charge. And today, we will learn more about this absolutely unique institution. It's absolutely unique organization. It works on implementing and developing and implementing artistic design methods. It's conducted research, scientific research work in the field of design theory, defining design requirements for consumer goods. And of course, it was responsible also for international relationships. Maybe we will watch
the film.
Yeah, yes. After that, I will be happy to answer all your questions.
Well, thank you very much, Olga, for this introduction. Let's watch the film. Well, thank you very much. That was a very informative series, great one, very exciting too. You know, the first series was about avant-garde, and which is also very fascinating material, but it's much more known these days than Vniete. And you know, it is really a very interesting and very informative film. I have you know, a few questions to Olga, using this opportunity to pick your brain. You know, this seemed to be quite a unique um, you know, establishment of Vniete. But how does it compare to the Western counterparts, and how this was a unique system? How does this research part was it a component in the Western you know, design production or not? How does Vniete compares to Western process of creating design and implementing it?
I think that it's absolutely unique. And first of all, because of enormous scale of the institute and its task, you know, that this was the leading design organization in the whole country, in the whole USSR. And the main office was located in Moscow, and 10 branches operated in major Russian cities and other Soviet republics, extending from the Baltic Sea to the Far East. So it was a really, really big organization. And it was very, it had a lot of different subdivisions. For example, in 1978, absolutely unique subdivision, the Center for Industrial Design Aesthetics, was established, and it was the first design center in the country. And actually, in fact, it was the first and the only one design museum. And it also worked as an education center, but not for the students, but for the professionals, for the practicing designers. I hadn't heard about this practice in Western design world, but maybe I just don't know about this. And for example, they had an experimental workshop. It was established in 1964, and it was located near the main office at the VDNH grounds. And they produced mock-ups in full scale in order to convince the leadership to produce it, to put it in mass production. And it also was unique. And secondly, Vniete brought together people, professionals from absolutely different spheres and from very diverse spheres of activities, like philosophers, psychologists, engineers, art historians, art critics, and architects. And this diversity enabled the Institute to create its own, again, unique scientific school, scientific approach to the design that was mainly based on theory. And I think that maybe this design school, this scientific school, might be compared with the even Bauhaus and Ulm School of Design, because of this very, very strong scientific and theoretical base. And last but I think not least, the Institute received governmental funding. So designers were paid even when the projects were never put into production.
Well, thank you very much, Olga. We have a few questions from the audience.
Yeah.
And the first one is about the taxi project that was mentioned in the film. And the question is, can you elaborate a little bit more why it was not manufactured? It seems like such a great idea. And was it because the existing taxis were not ready to be replaced, or was it too much of an investment, or why? Why else?
It was the main pain for all who worked for the VNITE, and it was the main problem, the problem of implementation, because there was a great significant gap between avant-garde and the really human-oriented VNITE design approach, VNITE design projects, and the very modest capabilities of the Soviet industry. And in addition, Soviet industry was not so interested in developing new products and in improving old ones, because it was under the circumstances of planned economy and lack of competition. So every time when designers offered some new product, some new project, industry had to change their line, had to refigure this whole structure, and it needed investment, it needed time, it needed people, efforts, but they don't need it actually.
So essentially, it sounds like there was a discrepancy between those who worked in VNITE and, you know, but from what I understand, VNITE also didn't have any competition. It was a head organization, but
Yeah.
it was such an atmosphere and such a creative drive that actually came from people who worked there, that they really didn't need any competition to actually produce great ideas. And that was in contrast with the you know, heads of the factories who didn't have any you know, inspiration or motivation to actually do anything, so or encouragement from does it sound right?
Yes, yes, they just they weren't interested in implementations, new products, and because of this deficit, because of this state planned economy, lack of competition. So
yes, we have a comment, not so much a question, but a comment from the audience, and in reference to the film Бриллиантовая рука, the diamond hand, where there was a scene where the trousers become shorts. And the comment is that this phrase is now much more clear after the
yes, yes.
The other question is, were there any particular designs that were produced and marketed successfully in the USSR and abroad?
I think
yes.
You mean products, some particular products?
Right. So any particular products that were you know, produced and marketed both in the in the USSR and abroad?
I think it's BelAZ. It's a truck that was created by Kabalinski, Valentin Kabalinski, and it was successfully produced for many years, and it was awarded I think silver medal at the Leipzig fair, and it's also actively exported in many countries, and also I think it might be суда на подводных крыльях, for hydrofoiled. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
it
yes.
also, yeah, it also was
This-
extremely popular
That was
abroad.
the kind
Yeah.
of flying over the surface of
Yeah,
water. I remember those. Then I always wanted to.
yes, yes.
Yes, absolutely. And I remember that this Bilaz truck was made in a very popular into a very popular toy.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And it also was very, very popular. It was, I think it was the only one project that was committed by Western country. It was committed by Italy, and it was called Utita. I don't know how it's called in English. It's a kind of фрезерный станок. It's very, very, very complicated technical
So it's
mechanism.
like a tool, right? Like a very complicated tool.
Yes, yes, it's very complicated tool, and it was commissioned by Utita company in Italy, and it was completed, and it was sold, and it got a lot of press, and it was a success.
So NITE worked with foreign partners, or was it just?
Well, it just one time,
Yes.
just once.
And also, it's interesting mention of collaboration with Raymond Loewy and how you know how in illustration how behind was this the Soviet production system that even if you invite and work with an absolute international star, even
Yeah.
in that case there is very little opportunity to actually produce something, although and it serves as an example that there were probably many brilliant projects within VNIT that also could not just be realized.
Yeah.
Just a second, we have a few more questions. There is a question: when did VNIT? Thank you for sharing your fascinating film. When did VNIT close and why? And does any equivalent group of body exist today? So is there any successor to VNIT?
No, there is no successor of VNIT. And actually, VNIT stopped operating actively after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1990s. But it still exists until the 2014. And in 2014, it became a part of one of the Moscow universities. So now it's kind of a department with only 3 people, and as I know, they do nothing because they just don't have any assignment.
And so design and design development went to a private bureau and operates more on the Western model.
Yes, yes. After the design union was created, a lot of designers established their own private bureaus, and after the collapse of the Soviet Union, a lot of designers, for example, Azrikan, immigrated, and they were really successful because of their, I don't know, holistic approach, because of this strong theoretical base. Yes, now there is no any successors.
Well, but there is a legacy, I'm sure.
Well, there is a legacy, yeah. But some of this legacy also lost. Yeah. And now...
Are there any archives that I'm sure that or not, they're not so well preserved?
It's not so well preserved. And again, it's because of this collapse, because after the collapse of the Soviet Union, in many republics, they just rejected everything that was related somehow to the Soviet past, and they just destroyed this. And for example, if we are talking about archives, I was told by the lady who was the head of this, the Center for Industrial Design Aesthetics, and she said that it was just cleared out and destroyed for the night.
Yes, unfortunately, there are these horror stories which
Yeah.
which are very, very unfortunate, but it's there's a more challenge and actually sort of heroic contribution on your part that you guys reconstruct and somehow reconnect and present this material.
And all these materials that we have now, they most of them came from the private archives of the former employees of the former Soviet designers. It's their private archives. It's not the official archives.
We have a few more questions. Diana asks, was Swiss design influential on graphic design in the USSR?
Of course. Yes, of course. And as I said before, the VNITE was also responsible for the international relationships and for the international collaboration, and employees had this opportunity to travel abroad, to participate in conferences, and of course they were influenced.
Thank you. And Maria, we have another question from Maria. How did designers work with factories to produce their products? Did the designers have a direct relationship with the factories?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes, especially in 80s, yes, it was a direct connection between factories and design department. But in the Soviet Union, all system was centralized and looked like a pyramid. So it was a very, very complicated connection. And sometimes factories just wanted, for example, to have a new product, and it was committed to the VNITE through the head organization. So it's not always direct connection.
But from what I understood, it works that VNITE developed the product and then worked with the factory designers or educated the local designers to kind of implement it into the production. So there was like several steps.
Yeah, several steps. Some factories, some plants, especially the large ones, had their own design bureaus, had their own designers, and they were educated and they communicate with the employees from the VNITE. But some of them, especially small ones, didn't have any design bureaus, and they might ask VNITE to offer some projects.
Well, thank you very much. I think we had a fascinating, very informative meeting. We don't have any more questions from the audience, but this was very. I learned very much myself, even though we.
Thank you.
Oh, there is one last. There is one message. One last. Yes, there is one last question. From Derek. How is it possible to find out more about the group? I know the Unit Editions published your book. Should I refer to that?
Yes. We published a book on the VNITE, and this based on our exhibition at the first London Design Biennial, and it's called Discovering Utopia. And you can find the main information about VNITE in this book.
Well, Thank you. This is fascinating. It's
Thank you.
pleasure to have you join us. And there are many thanks from the audience.
Thank you.
And so thank you very much, and we'll hope we'll continue our discussions and collaborations.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And we looking forward to seeing everyone in a week on our next screening, and the next series will be about
Soviet design in general.
Yes.
about the next stage of the Soviet design. And by the way, there is a film on NIET.
Yes, and we have shown it for the opening of our exhibition, I believe.
Maybe, yeah.
Right, and
but it's in English. It's in English and with English subtitles. So
yes,
it also might be a source of information.
Maybe we can organize a screening of that too.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So stay tuned for our announcements, and I see you all next week.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.